Welcome to the Creatives. I'm your host, Ashley Mahoney, and today we are talking theater in 2020 and virtual theater at that with Children's Theater of Charlotte. You've heard them before, the fabulous cast and creative of GRIMMZ at Children's Theater of Charlotte. It returns January of 2021 for their virtual season, and today joining us we have director Christopher Parks as well as Rashim Shabazz and fellow co-creator of this fantastic production, Ron Lee McGill. Thank you all so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. And like we said, we did this before with an episode of The Creatives in person at Children's Theater in beautiful Uptown back in February. Jump forward several months, and here we are in the midst of a pandemic that has made life very interesting for all of us, but particularly for creatives and people in the theater industry. So walk us through what it's like bringing this show to life during the midst of the year that one will not end, and also the year that's forced so many people to pivot in such an interesting way.
Well, I guess I'll start off by saying that so many of our friends, so many of our colleagues in the industry have no work and are just hoping, waiting, that September seems to be the time, September of 2021, that we'll all hopefully be coming back. That time frame has to do with Broadway. A lot of what we do and a lot of the performing arts centers and regional theaters around the country are looking for Broadway for an answer for when we'll be back. And they've bumped their time frame up to September of 2021. And we could just hope that that comes through. Now, that's the third time frame that they've put forward. But in the meantime, most other theaters are shuttered. Most other performing arts centers are shuttered. But we've got a group here at the Children's Theater of Charlotte led by Adam Burke, where they said, we're going to do what we can to keep alive this art form because we know how important it is. We know the responses that we get from kids. And so they and Adam, his staff and their board has done something magical. And so many of my friends in the industry are jealous of Adam and his staff and a number of other people like Adam who've been able to make this happen, but it's few and far between. And that is going virtual and having this four show season of virtual shows. We were just about to walk into sold out performances, an extended week by popular demand. And right as that Friday was coming of those sold out performances, they were like, we're going to postpone till Monday. We're going to postpone until Friday. We're never coming back. So we were thrilled to be able to come back. Right, Sheem?
Most definitely, man. The stage, just these stories have been calling us for a while. So just being able to be in the atmosphere of other artists and friends and, man, human to human interaction again, it's just, it's surreal. So.
Yeah, Adam was in rehearsal the other day helping us out because we're sort of on a time crunch. We only have 2 weeks to remount everything. We've also made some significant changes that we wanted to mess around with. And yesterday he goes, by the way, I haven't been in a room directing for 9 months because he had directed a show in the fall of last year. No, he didn't say 9 months. He said The Invisible Boy. So actually, now that I think about that, that's actually 13 months. It's been 13 months since he's directed a show. So pretty cool.
I mean, 13 months, that feels like, oh gosh, I swear this year has been something, a combination and akin to March. You hit March and it wouldn't end. And then you got to April and you're like, okay, we're in this kind of, what does this look like? What does this mean? And boom. I mean, today, our fabulous day of recording is December 17th. I still have to look at the calendar and say, is that right? Is it really December 17th? But like you said, the show itself, the premiere was set in February. It made its debut at Children's Theater of Charlotte. And then, like you said, it was all set. Everything was going great. The stories that we talked about, these classic fairy tales reimagined with hip hop and with this modern twist, they were so well received. And then stages went silent. Everything went dark. It was just this matter of, okay, we'll wait it out. Just continue to wait it out. And like you said, with Broadway, this is the third time that it's been pushed back, and continuing to almost look at it as a beacon of, all right, when do things start to pick up again? How does this continue to move? And you've seen, just this way of continuing to connect with art and creativity over the last several months, and virtual, so while still providing live performances, it's definitely an option here. So talk to me a bit about what it's like to be in this creative space, and what adaptations have been made to accommodate for these very unique set of circumstances that we're in.
Ron, you want to talk a little bit about what we've been doing in rehearsal?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it kind of reminds me of just when it comes to what do you do in the downtime. I know, just want to touch on it really quick. What I've kind of found myself doing is that after doing the show and running the show, it's like, wow, the physical demand of the show alone is definitely was a jolt, and like, okay, you got to get your cardio up. This is really, and move and dance within, you know, with mask on, and having that struggle, it really does pay off to really have the cardio up. In terms of style and revamp, you know, I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to come back and view these stories again. You know, we were really show and not having a workshop, and really like having to like bring these things together in a matter of days, really, and find the new chemistry that's better than ever. It's been very refreshing, and yeah, and very grateful for everything. I hope that answers the question. Yeah.
Yeah, and
To
yes,
piggyback off what he said, yeah, I kind of agree. This process has been building that chemistry up. It's like the chemistry's there, but then there's certain areas where it's like, can I hug you? Like, I don't think we should hug. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm in this scene, but we still have, you know, this real thing that we're dealing with outside of this scene that still deals with real things. It's so like, you know, it's kind of like sometimes it's hard to do. It's just like, okay, I don't want to, you know, overstep a boundary or anything like that, dealing with everything that we're dealing with today. But everyone's been so open and conscious of each other and each other's space. And we've just been working together so beautifully that it's like we never left. So.
and is the entire cast still the same from the first run earlier this year?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We were really fortunate. And what was great about it, is that we got to a certain place in the run of the show before where we felt a certain way about the different pieces that we were working on, but we felt like there was still more to go. We always feel like there's more we could do, there's more to go. And I've been really delighted as a director to see so many of the actors take what they had and bring it to a new level. So I feel like what we had in March and February was something that was very well received, and we were really happy with it. But boy, the opportunity as theater artists to come back and revisit work over and over again and fine tune and clean. You would think that we would just sort of put the show together in like 1 or 2 days. Oh, we just did this already. But we've been given the opportunity to spend 2 weeks on it. So we're refining different lines and different moments and character choices in certain places. So it's been really a great opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And is it entirely the same set of stories, the same set of fairy tales as before, or did the last several months give you an opportunity to say, you know what, maybe add in a couple of new ones, maybe just play around with things a little bit?
That's a great and very pointed question. That's why Sheem is laughing the way he is. We wrote another piece, and we were considering doing that other piece here because there was some commentary from folks, mixed commentary from folks about some of the pieces that we did,
around, you know,
some of the impact that we had with them. And ultimately, we ended up deciding to just keep the same pieces that we have and continue to make adjustments to them. And the reason for it is that this isn't just a regular play. This is a play that infuses hip hop, dance, singing, rhythm, and with theater and theater for children specifically. So for us, I don't know of a model. We don't know of a model for this kind of genre that exists already. So we're feeling like, at least from our perspective, because we don't know of anyone else necessarily doing this work, at least the way that with the aesthetics that we have, it's been a lot of us figuring out, well, how far do we go with this? How far do we go with that? What do we do? How do we answer? And probably the biggest piece that we've altered is Cinderella, which the thing that we've been talking about recently is that it's not really a play. It's a very long song, like a 12-minute song. And so we're playing with taking some of the long scenes that we had written and chopping them down and getting rid of them and reconfiguring. You guys want to talk a little bit more about that too? Add anything to that?
Yes. With Cinderella, that's one of the stories where the more we work on it, the more and more I actually love, more and more I love it. It's really developing into something that was great to begin with, but it's really taking some steps into some beautiful, beautiful pieces, and the characters are really fleshing out in a wonderful way. A lot of new discoveries are being made. I love the approach that we usually take when it comes to these fairy tale stories and making them real and putting that hip hop element and just that human element to it. So yeah, with that, I personally, and one of my personal favorites is just the way that the characters are developing and really fleshing out to something that's even more human than before.
We're trying to find the truth in things, Ashley, but we're also trying to stay within an artistic aesthetic, you know, and it's like, how do you keep it theatrical, but also truthful at the same time? And we're trying to find that blend. I think in certain moments, Ron, like, we've got it, right? And then in other moments, it's like, well, maybe if we, like, we're just feeling it out.
Exactly. And I know that's something that you all spoke to previously, was wanting it to be, you know, kind of this idea around hip hop of, okay, it's not necessarily for kids, but kids are the ones listening to it, and making sure that this is something that, you know, you can listen to as a kid, and it still has all of the things that you love about hip hop. It still has this wonderful storytelling element, but it's not something that's going to necessarily be like, maybe this isn't something that, you know, an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old should necessarily be listening to. But at the same time, their parents or their families can hear it as well and still be able to identify with it and appreciate it. How is translating that? Is that something that you feel is obviously going to continue to translate through this virtual performance, or is it something that you know, there are elements that have to be enhanced in order to really make sure that people feel it at home versus watching the production in person?
You know, if I could take this really quick, it's something that I really kind of go back and forth with, not necessarily because it's hip hop, but because of growing up in the 90s and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that, you know, with world events and economies and stuff, and things that people are susceptible to when it comes to entertainment, and things that they're not, like, as in when it's a recession, people don't want to really have self-reflective material and entertainment and things like that to think about themselves. When it's a surplus, it's a little different because you're doing a little better in your pocket, so you can take these type of things and really reflect on how you're living as a person, because you don't have those needs, you know, that, you know, need to be met. With that being said, here, growing up, and some of the things that kids were okay for kids at the time, and being things that were touchy, but at the same time, it was explained in such a way that we kind of had an opportunity to emotionally kind of be exposed to that and kind of develop a little better than what kids would be, you know, in my opinion, what kids would be exposed to now, because there's so much craziness going on, and there's so much stuff going on so many levels, that we want to protect kids a little more, and we want to preserve their innocence a bit more. So I personally go back and forth with that. But I feel that with hip hop, the genre cannot be a monolith into like, hey, this isn't for kids' ears, because, you know, these are rhymes we're talking about. These are nursery rhymes, you know, that have grown into this complex, genre. And yes, this was, bred off of, a misfortune in a lot of ways. This is where this music comes from. But through that, it's once again going back to that beauty of, in the midst of misfortune. These are grim situations, grim stories that, crazy, insurmountable odds, but there's a beauty within that too. So though I want kids to, I don't want to traumatize anybody, but, at the same time, I really work towards, and I really hope that we continue to work towards having this subject matter explained in such a way to let kids know that, hey, this stuff happens, but you were surrounded by love. There are good things in the world. And that's a truth that I continuously want to pursue within this work that we do.
And to that end, particularly, earlier this year, everyone knew that there would be a certain level of tension with the upcoming presidential election. And some kids are tuned into that, and some are, it's another year. There's the same president, there's a new president. Who knows? It depends on their level of intuition and understanding at whatever age they happen to be at. But this year has been unique for a number of reasons, because March, obviously, things change because the world gets thrown into a pandemic. Jump forward, no, not even jump forward. Ahmaud Arbery was killed in February. And then you look forward and you have the death of Breonna Taylor. You have the death of George Floyd. And you see the response to that, not just in the cities where this is taking place. You see that response here in the streets of Charlotte in numerous ways. Are these elements that, like you said, you want these children to understand that these things have happened, they are happening, but at the same time, each child, you want them to understand what's going on, but also to understand that feeling of being surrounded by love. Do you feel that really plays in, particularly for young children of color, that really plays in now with this show heading into 2021 and the start of a new year?
Yeah. To be honest, like we did, we did try to tackle that, with Black Lives Matter. We did try to tackle this subject, and and when it all came down to it, we determined that the subject matter itself deserved an amount of respect, an amount of attention that may have been too large for what we needed to do in this space right here. And in these times, and I was feeling this way before, the pandemic and before the protest, about how important it is for our representation to be into play, and how important it is for our authenticity to be into play, because these are like, I think about it, like I'm what the guys you see, Will and Jay, that you see on stage here, and we're rapping the kids and stuff like that. These are the same, these look like the same guys who, were on that video in Starbucks, you know what I mean? Being arrested and being harassed for using the restroom. Bit by bit, I feel like our presence being there, our telling stories, telling our stories, us telling these stories, and us connecting with the youth, and providing that positivity, providing that energy of not of fear, but of humanity and connection. I think that way we can make baby steps towards really embracing that. And I look forward to doing that. It may not be in this particular medium, but we shall see. We shall see. So I'm very hopeful.
Sheem, what are your thoughts?
To be honest, I think that's what people are looking for, is hope. And I know how it was for me when I went to see The Lion King, and even though at that time it was, in the 90s, people were still being murdered, being beaten, police brutality. But seeing someone on stage that looked like me, that represented something that I could do with my life, it was just so different. It wasn't an escape. I don't want to say it was an escape. It was a hope to something better, where theater crosses that line of unity and diversity and love. And I haven't walked into a theater quite yet where I felt, I think I'm out of place here, like, and if we can, what we're doing with this can translate into living rooms, into classrooms, into daycares, into people's hearts, to see a Hispanic young girl on stage dancing her heart out, or to see, two sisters from two different homes coming together and understanding that they are better together rather than separated by whatever our parents, may go through. And sometimes I think that is what we show on this stage, is that regardless of what the higher powers may do, is that at our level, if we can stick together, that we can change our way of living. And a lot of time that takes, mental strength, and mental stability and emotional awareness that we are trying to help these children to understand with these pieces. A lot of times, I've had friends who have went to jail or went to prison, and it's because of a certain emotion that arose in a moment that someone cannot control, whether it be a young Black man on the street or whether it be a police officer with a gun in his hand. It gets to the point where is the emotional awareness? Where is the thing that says, whoa, what I'm about to do is wrong? Or how can I reflect on this situation? And I think GRIMMZ gives people an opportunity to sit in that, but also have the hope of togetherness and unity and one love for mankind. So I think, we'll like Ron said, baby steps, baby steps.
And I also applaud GRIMMZ as well. And within our writing, Chris, Sheen, and myself, but not to congratulate myself, but yeah, I also really appreciate the amount of the non-nuclear family dynamic and how love is shown within that. You know what I mean? And it doesn't just take a mom and a dad. Sometimes it's just a mom or a grandmother or just a father, or blended families as well. I really appreciate our showing that and showing how love existed within that. I just want to say, yeah.
Exactly, because family is not necessarily. I mean, I know that people experience this on a daily basis, but family in a lot of ways is very subjective. And what is family to you? And there's this idea of, okay, mom, dad, kids, and it's not necessarily that. It's not necessarily, parents may not be in the picture, period. And does that mean that love does not exist around that child? And you're like, no, there are still people there, providing and making sure that that individual child has the best shot possible, whatever that looks like. And I think that's definitely something, whether we're talking, with GRIMMZ hundreds of years ago, or we're talking in 2020, in the year that just seems like it won't quit. It is definitely something to carry forward and carry through, the ending couple of weeks here, because again, I keep looking at my calendar thinking it's not December 17th. It can't be December 17th. I'm still back in October, writing October everywhere. And then no, it should be December. December should come before all of the numbers here. But tell me about the experience that you had. When were you able to first get back onto the stage? Whoever wants to go first.
Well, we were lucky because our set was still on the stage. It's been sitting here for 6 months because they didn't have another show after it. So when we got here, the tech crew did not have to, build the scenery or hang additional, hang lights or hang a light plot or something like that. It was already just waiting for us. So the second day of rehearsal, we were here, which is very rare for those of you who don't work in the theater. Just so you know, you work in a rehearsal room for a while, and then you transfer to the stage about a week before the show starts usually. But here, it was our second day of rehearsal. We went right onto the stage. So we've been on the stage the whole time that we've been rehearsing for the most part for the last 2 weeks. I also want to just circle back just for a moment about that talking about family thing, because it's as if, Ashley, you just described our Hansel and Gretel. Because that's what Hansel and Gretel is about. It's about these two kids,
Yeah.
and they're sort of given away by their father, and they're going to go into the foster care system, and they decide they don't want to get split up, so they run away. They end up at this kooky lady's house. They don't end up eating the lady in the end the way that they do in the normal fairy tale, but instead they get to know this lady, and even though they're scared of her at first and they're worried eventually, the last lines of the piece are, maybe sometimes family isn't necessarily the people who who you're born into, but to the people
Spoiler alert.
you meet. And what's that? Go ahead, Gene. What?
Spoiler alert.
Oh. That's the theme of it there, is that, family are the people who are the important people around you, the people who love you and who you love back.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I love that on so many levels. And I know that there are so many listeners and readers, once this is in the physical print form, who will be able to identify with those sentiments. And you think about this process of, all right, you've had 2 weeks on stage, not in a rehearsal room, which is fabulous, and just being in that creative environment. What will the process of actually putting everything together so that it's ready for January and the multi-run of the show look like?
So there's 5 cameras. There's a film director who's working with us. He's actually been here in rehearsal walking up to me sometimes being like, hey, Chris, you got to sort of shift that person over there a little bit, or give me a little bit of that. It's just going to be help me with camera angles. He's kind of storyboarding everything out. He's making a shot list of what he wants. We'll get to shooting the show on Monday. We'll have 2 days of shooting. And each of those days we will run the show in segments, and we will run it 3 times, and he and his crew of 5 camera people will film it 3 different times. But the sound for the show will be almost non-existent. It'll just be loud enough for the actors to be able to hear it, and the only sound we'll really be recording will be the sound of the actors' voices. So then all that footage will be given to an editor. The editor will edit together all of the film footage. And then once the look of the show is done, then it will be given over to the sound design crew, and they will insert all of the sound cues that are in there, and they'll insert all of the music that belongs in there, and that's how sort of the whole thing will end up getting made. So it's kind of weird because it's not really being shot where the sound is live with the actors, but in order to get the purest version of the actors' voices, you want to get all that other sound out of the way. So what a great luxury we have to be able to have that sound be added in post.
And I'm sure, like Ron, like you said, having to go through everything multiple times is definitely a call to get your cardio up and be like, all right, it's going to be I'm sure a wonderful final product, but obviously the work that's going to go into it is like, all right, whew, it's done. It's finished. It's complete. All right. Now let's everyone just go take a really long nap.
And to be honest, having a bit of a background when it comes to film, as well as theater, I know that with the pandemic and everything that's going on, like theater is going through a lot of changes, and in how we produce, how do we, display ourselves to the world. I'm really particularly excited about the blending of what can happen with film and truly trying to harness the magic of the stage. Because I know that's something that, we as theater people have struggled to try to bring that to somebody sitting at home. And there's always that division. There's nothing like being within the theater. So I'm really excited about the innovation, with the necessity as to what we can really make happen to make people feel like, hey, I'm here. and I'm in this concert too. So I'm really excited about that. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, and between Adam Burke, who's our artistic director, and John Merrick, who's our film director, and the three of us, and the rest of the tech staff, the sound designers, the rest of the designers and design team, the sound designers, the stage manager, the lighting designer, we are spending a lot of time talking about the philosophy of what we're doing. I think a really beautiful charge was put out to us in the very beginning from Adam Burke, where he said, it shouldn't feel like a film. It should feel like a filmed version of a live theater play. Because if it feels like that, then it's giving us an opportunity to bring our medium into people's living room. If we're trying to make a film, we'll never be successful because we're not setting ourselves to succeed there because we're filming what's on a stage. So we're not going to be moving the cameras around and shooting from multiple angles at different times because that doesn't make sense for what we're doing. We're trying to bring to life, like what Ron is saying, we're trying to bring to life faithfully what it is that it would be that you would see on the stage into your living room. And I'll mention, this isn't what we're doing, but I have a friend over in Arkansas with Trike Theater. What they're doing right now is they're creating virtual reality theater. And so they're just starting to experiment with the idea of having enough cameras set up in one seat position on the stage so that you can sit down and put on VR goggles and you're looking at the show like this and moving around, as opposed to it just being on your fixed television screen. So a lot of our friends are trying a lot of different things. But I think based on the first show they've done here, the Velveteen Rabbit, and the video I've seen of that, it looks pretty cool. It looks pretty cool. You really are given that opportunity to be sitting in the audience. And by the way, Alex is one of the stars of the Velveteen Rabbit, just saying. Besides being in the Bahamas.
Yes, and Alex of Children's Theater of Charlotte, we appreciate you joining us from the Bahamas.
Yes, of course.
And for those of you who are listening to this thinking of he's in the Bahamas, no, it's just a fabulous Zoom background because here we are with Zoom. Where like I was saying earlier, if you had told me back in February that we would be doing this on Zoom, I would have said we'll be doing it on what Zoom. But now we're all very well acquainted with Zoom. We're all best friends with Zoom, and Zoom apparently, like many other transitions that we've made this year, is here to stay. So in the meantime, in between time, when is the earliest that people can access the upcoming version of GRIMMZ from their homes?
I know the deliverables are January 6th. Alex, you could probably tell us better, but I'm pretty sure that's when it goes up. Is that right, Alex?
Yeah, I believe it'll be right around then as well. Because we are having conversation back and forth with Broadway On Demand. So as soon as we get that final date, we will push it out on our social media as well, and we'll know that. But yeah, our deliverables are January 6th.
Fantastic. So this will be either the first or second week of January of 2021. Oh my goodness, 2021. But
right.
In the meantime, in between time, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of 2020. And it was a pleasure being able to have you all back on The Creatives. I greatly appreciate it. Cannot wait to see how everything turns out for you. So 1, be safe. 2, eat lots of holiday cookies because I'm going to, so I think everyone else should too. I just push that on everyone. I'm like, all the snickerdoodles, all the gingerbread cookies, the works. Just every morning for breakfast, it's just, okay, what kind of cookie are we having with our coffee today? Or when I say cookie, I mean cookies. So, and in the meantime, thank you again so much for joining me. Make sure that you head over to thecharlottepost.com. There you will find all of our fabulous content. You can also check us out every Thursday in print. And make sure that you head over to Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, your preferred medium, and subscribe to The Creatives. So until next time, I am your host, Ashley Mahoney. Thank you for joining me.